Hi, my name's Ed Love. It's my pleasure to host this panel discussion. I've been involved in the music business in Lincoln for about 50 years now, and we've assembled another panel of, let's call them veteran musicians and an owner of a very popular establishment here in Lincoln to discuss another part of the music scene. So just to get us started, just introduce yourself, any amusing bits of information that you might have briefly, maybe if you're a musician, what instrument you play, and then we'll get into more specifics later.
I'm Jim Pipher, and my musical career did not start in Lincoln. I'm not originally a Lincoln guy, so I may be a little bit of an outsider in this group in that sense, but yeah, I started playing back when I was in high school. I primarily play bass now, play in a bunch of bands, and played in bands in bars like the Zoo Bar for decades now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my name's Steve Hanson, and guitar player, stringed instrument player, and I guess I started when I was about 13, and I played the saxophone in grade school, but I quickly gave that up. I started playing.
There's no money in that, right?
No. Well, I was really bad, for one thing. But a couple years later, some friends of mine wanted to start this little folk band, and they knew I had a guitar, so they asked me if I'd join their folk band. It was part of the folk scare, you know, of the early 60s. And so I said, well, that's great, but I don't know how to play. And so I got the guitar out. I think it belonged to my brother, and I learned 12 chords and I started playing.
Perfect. I learned 3 chords, and that was enough
So,
for me.
yeah, I figured I'd just learn as many as I could.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
I'm Pete Waters. I came to Lincoln to go to college here from Omaha, Bellevue, and it was impossible not to walk by the Zoo Bar at the time, and I was hearing all this stuff that I'd never heard before. And the minute I turned 19, which was the drinking age at the time, I started going to the Zoo Bar, and I was a patron there for years, and then luckily got fired from a job that I hated, and I knew the manager, Keith, because I'd been there, and Keith said, well, do you want to work here? And I said, yeah, I thought I'd be something I'd do for 6 months or so, you know, and I never quite got out the door. And I finally was going to leave. One time I went back to school because I kind of went the John Belushi route, and didn't get out of college till much later. And I told Larry, I said, well, I think I better do something with my life now. I finally graduated from college, and he said, I don't know, why don't you stay here and I'll leave. So I'm still there. You can't get out of there. So.
I'm Benjamin Kushner, and I'm a musician here, born and raised in Lincoln, and played professionally since, depending on how you want to define it, since I was in high school, but more heavily after I came back from college from Wisconsin in Madison, and started playing more regularly as a professional musician here. I play guitar. I like to play bass. Pretty much anything you want to put in front of me, I'll try to play it, but mainly guitar and vocals and a little bit of keyboard.
So you started playing music in high school, you said, and
I started playing music in my crib. You know, my mom says I would try to sing Fiddler on the Roof, or Henry VIII was my crazy favorite pop song, and I'd modulate if it got too high, and she's like, this kid, you know. So I've changed keys to make it easier to sing and start over. But as far as studying music, I started with Dean Haist. Bob Hopek. Dean was my trumpet teacher, and I played in the jazz band at Maud Rousseau until I got kicked out because I kept trying to play alternative harmonies. But I played again in Palm Junior High, so. And then Mr. Jaworski wanted me to switch to French horn because he needed them, and I wish I wouldn't have because I like trumpet It was more fun. You didn't have 64 measures of rest, and then I got bored with the French horn, so I started playing guitar at about 13. And it became my best friend, because my best friend had moved away, and I was just, you know how it is in junior high, you're sort of searching at a new school, and the guitar really not only was a passion, but it kind of filled a really big empty spot in my adolescence.
Do you remember what your first paying gig was?
I do. I had to think about that last night, but I think it was playing for Jim Kudelka, was the accompanist at Southeast when I was involved in vocal music all through the years, and he had me hired for an audition for a Miss Nebraska contestant, and she wanted to sing Jazz Man by Carole King. So he asked if I'd do it, and I went to help me out. Assisted living here, please. Is it Spectrum Sound Studio that was on 9th Street?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah,
So,
that was Tommy Alicio.
yeah.
Yeah.
I went in there and made the appointment, and you know, I was kind of nervous, but it was really, really fun. I just played acoustic guitar, just rhythm guitar. And they gave me a tape, a cassette tape of what we had made without vocals, because she was then going to sing live, I assume, for the audition or whatever it was that she was using it for. And she was there. It was really exciting. That was in like 80. I was probably 15 or 16.
What'd you get paid?
I can't remember, but if I had to guess, it seems like it would have been about $20 to $30.
Wow.
I was really stoked.
Yeah. How about you, Steve?
Oh, gosh.
First
First
paying
gig, you know, as soon as I learned my 12 chords, started playing.
Started making records.
Started playing gigs, but they were, you know, like in the school gym or Irving, but I think maybe we played like a fraternity party or something, and probably made $10 a piece. And, you know, it was probably something like that. I can't really remember. But later on, I joined this band called the Enterprise. This was in high school, I guess, and they were like a touring horn band, like soul band. And, you know, it was great. Here I was 15 or 16 or something, and I'd come home with like $55 or $60. And I'm looking at other people that I knew in high school.
It's kind of rapper money.
Yeah. They were making like $1 an
Doing
hour.
bills in your car, driving home.
Oh, man, yeah, it
a
was
lot of money
great.
back then.
So I thought, well, this is not bad. And then later on, just made me think of it that early in the 70s, before the Zoo Bar even had a stage, I think there was a pool table that they'd shove out of the way back there. It was about 72 or something, maybe 73. And we'd play, I think it was either a quarter or 50 cents cover. And this was with the Bluegrass Crusade. And I'd end up making $10 or $11.
There you go.
There you go.
But that was like $50 now.
Right. Well, 25 cents a gallon gas at that time. So, you know, I was happy with it.
Sure.
Because I loved playing there, and just, I really liked playing, you know, so.
Don't we all?
Yeah. Well, so I grew up in a town called Takema, which is north of Omaha. And the summer between my freshman and sophomore years in high school, I went on a dig with the State Historical Society. We were at Fort Robinson unearthing the jailhouse where Crazy Horse was killed. And all the other guys on the crew were college guys. And this was the same thing as doing the folk boom. So two of them had acoustic guitars. And there was nothing to do at night after, you know, working all day. So these guys would get out guitars and, you know, they kind of showed me G, C, and D.
Ready to go?
You were playing guitar.
Well,
Right.
yeah. And so I after the dig was over, I came home and, you know, kind of said, look at you guys, you can do this, and you can sing a song, you know?
Yeah, I was pretty excited.
And so we all kind of got excited, but then we very quickly morphed away from folk and wanted to be a rock band. And one of the other guys in the band's dad actually owned an electric guitar, so he got to be the guitar player. So they needed a bass player, so I got switched over to bass. And our first gig, so my first paying gig, was in Tacoma. I was at the City Auditorium. We took magic markers and made 2 posters, you know, dance at the City Auditorium. There were 2 sections. There was the main hall. If you rented that, it was $25. Then there was a little side hall. If you rented that, it was $10. We rented the side hall.
Smart.
And did a dance, you know, through a dance. My parents took admission. I think we charged 75 cents. And
What year was that? Was that in the 60s then?
yeah, it would have been 60.
7?
Yeah, it was probably 66. And you know, I think the band cleared, you know, like $78, something like that, after paying for the hall and.
Had to pay your parents,
Had to
of
get,
course.
well,
Yeah, right.
didn't have to, you know, I think we had to buy a couple new magic markers.
Tax deductible.
Yeah. So that was the first gig, yeah.
Wow. What was that band?
That was well, it started out, first it was Spanky and our gang, or not, it was our gang, we just called ourselves, but then a band called
Right.
Spanky and our gang came out and stole our name.
Right.
So then we switched from that to the Dover Boys.
Oh, yeah.
So what was the name of you guys' first bands?
Gosh, you know, my first band was later than some other kids. I was just studying guitar and listening to players, but I had the first band that I played, I was probably 18 or 19 years old, and it was with Tom Harville. And I don't remember if we had a name or not. We played a Lincoln High dance in the gym, and it was just kind of maybe a 6, 7, 8 month deal before I left for Wisconsin to go to university, but it was really fun. I don't remember what our name was. I'll have to ask Tom. In Lincoln, when I came home from college, it was with Gary Williams on drums, and Reg Farr was fronting the band just as a vocalist, and it was like soul and R&B, and it was called Night Heat.
I remember 19, that's right.
Now it's Night Sweats, right?
Night Sleep.
These bands, with the first band I was in, we called ourselves the New Salem Singers. Okay, this is folk.
Folk, yeah, obviously.
And, you know, I don't even know where we came up with it. I mean,
Did you smoke Salem's at the time?
well, it wasn't smoking at the time, anything. Then the Folk City Four was another folk group.
How many were in the band?
Then I had a band that, this is all in junior high, then started another band called the Rubber Band, and had that one through high school. So those were,
Longer stretch.
yeah, stretch your fun with the Rubber Band. That was our slogan.
Right. Oh.
Anyway, that takes me through early high school. Always had more than one band.
Well, yeah, I mean, you play in 14 different groups,
Yeah,
Now.
even now, yeah.
and their names are,
Well, what are their names, Jim?
well, they're Fab Tones.
The Fab
and-
Tones, of course, the
Yeah.
Fabulous Tone Huskers, and the Toasted Ponies, and the Lightning Bugs. And that's primarily it.
The Shucks
The
Brothers.
Shucks Brothers, you know.
Well, and Ben, you play
Yeah, got a
in,
lot of bands.
you're at the zoo like 7 nights a week anymore, I think, but.
Yeah, I mean, I play, I'll go in order of their creations. Currently, it would be the Mescal Brothers, which is a rockabilly band that I adore. They invited me into the band in 2003, November. And Josh Hoyer and Soul Colossal. I'm a founding member of that band with Josh, starting to put it together in late 2012, and then by the very end of the year, performing live at the zoo. And also the Wondermons, which started about the same time as Josh Hoyer on Soul Colossal, but we don't get it to play quite as much because of how busy the Josh Hoyer band became with touring. So Mescal Brothers is rockabilly, Josh Hoyer and Soul Colossal is original, primarily original funky R&B and soul music, and the Wondermons are exploring our passion for like the Meters, which is, you know, a funk band from the late 60s, early 70s from New Orleans, and Booker T and the MGs, the new Master Sounds, more modern groups that are also derivative of that sound. So,
That's
three
one of my
bands.
favorite names.
The Wondermons?
Yeah.
I love the one. I love the band, I love the name.
Yeah, Andy Fairburn kind of helped us come up with that. I think he thought of it because we were just talking about Husker football, at a
sure.
party. And
I remember
we
you
all-
asking me, and I said, Wonderful Mons Jr. Oh,
Yeah.
remember?
It's a-
All-American
I love that.
defensive back.
It's a great poster, too.
I love that it was Wonderful Mons Jr. You know, his dad had that name too.
Yeah. Really cool. He was like one of the coolest football players to me because he just, well, he was very fast, fleet. That was the direction that Osborne wanted to take the Huskers. And he had that
Big
huge,
afro.
great afro, and it's just like, that guy is the
Yeah.
coolest.
Wow.
Not only do the local bands love to play at the zoo, but the national touring artists, I've heard, seem to like that place. What's so special about that?
Well, thank you, first of all. Well, we certainly try to make them feel at home. If they play a few times, they always have friends in Lincoln, and it's really something that Larry set up, and Larry had it down right, and then the people of Lincoln showed up. And because of the intimacy of the place, there's a lot of energy, kind of goes from the crowd to the band, back to the crowd, then back to the band, and it kind of hypes it up like that. So they end up having a lot of fun there. It could be some really fun nights in there, you know. And I think that proximity is a big part of it. And then one of the things, it doesn't happen very much anymore, but we used to have a lot of bands that played multiple nights. And the fans would invite the bands to come for a home-cooked meal, you know, they're on the road and that stuff like that. And it just became, there's a lot of really enduring friendships have lasted between the artists and the fans for a long time, you know. And so I've heard people like you know, they circle a date on the calendar and they feel like it's the closest thing to home for them when they come here. So it's really a testament of Larry, how he set it up, and then the people of Lincoln that really supporting it.
Well, I got into a band because I went to the zoo bar with this Cuban band, a band that played Cuban music.
Love that band.
There was one Cuban in the band. Anyway, Sundeliano, and I came to hear them because Tom Harville was playing keyboard, and I played a lot of jazz gigs with Tom, and so I noticed they just had a trumpet player. And the rhythm section and the singer and all that. And I said, man, they need a little harmony there. They ought to be a second trumpet and maybe a flute solo every now and then. So the next time,
It worked too. It was good. Added a lot to that band.
I sat in, and then I sat in again, and then they invited me to a rehearsal, and I just weaseled my way in. And
They finally paid you?
eventually, yeah. So, yeah. Yeah, I made more than, you know, $1.50 or whatever you, whatever you did on your first. That wasn't my first gig ever, but it was my first. Might not have been my first zoo bar gig. I think I might have played there with the Fab Tones.
Probably.
Prior to that, yeah,
Probably.
yeah, with the big band.
Yeah,
the Fab Tones big
thing.
band.
Yeah, it was always fun to do. So what was your first gig, paying gig? Do you remember?
Oh, high school. I was in a. Well, I played saxophone in this band. It was sort of a jazz band. We had just some stock charts, and it was a band called the Candle Lighters.
Nice.
Yeah, I was. No, there were. I think I was a sophomore. There were two of us sophomores, and the rest of the people in the band were juniors and seniors. So I
Yeah.
felt
Great.
privileged and honored to be in there. I think we played some high school dances, you know, and which was weird because, you know, a lot of the high schools were having rock bands at their
Right,
dances.
right.
And
Yeah.
here's a band playing the music from Peter Gunn, and, you know, and Mr. Lucky, you know, another Henry Mancini scored thing. Anyhow, we were just
Where was
to
this?
him. Omaha Central.
Okay, you went to Central.
Yeah, and so 1964-ish, 5-ish, something like that. And then my band director got me in a dance band, a serious dance band with older guys. And then I joined the union. I had to join the
Oh, wow,
union
there
for
you go.
that, yeah.
Older guys, that helps.
Yeah,
What was that union head guy in Omaha?
Shorty Vest.
Shorty Vest, yeah. You better be careful.
Oh.
Have your card ready.
Yeah, he was a great guy, hilarious.
I played the zoo bar, started playing before Larry, you know, when Jim Ludwig owned the,
Yeah, me
owned the
too.
bar.
Yeah,
And you play 3 nights, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday.
Yeah.
those were great.
Yeah. it
The
was-
Bourbon Lounge, is it called that?
No, it was,
Was the
at
zoo-
least when I started.
I think it
was-
just changed
It
to-
was still, it was the zoo.
I
Larry
remember-
was kind
I
of,
actually don't know what year it became the zoo.
yeah.
You know, Larry booked first, we always could have, 73's been, that's when Larry made that, that's our anniversary, you know, from the 73. But I know it was kind of
Yeah, I'm not
shaky
exactly
there for a
sure.
while, you know, he was taking over the jukebox and stuff. And
Yeah.
so, but I know it was the Bourbon Lounge, I know it was the zoo, but I don't know what year it became
When
the
it
zoo.
switched, yeah. It was always the zoo for me.
Well, and there are certainly a lot of other establishments in Lincoln that have music, that still do. Can you think of some that are no longer with us, that you have played in the past?
Sure.
Like, for
Like, we called quite a few from the herd.
Yeah, we kind of consider ourselves like, you know, wolves culling the weak, caribou from the herd.
O.G. Kelly's played there, Jesse's,
Yeah.
Chesterfields,
Chesterfield's, yeah.
Larry
Larry
Showcase.
Showcase.
Showcase,
Uh,
drumstick.
Green Frog?
Yep.
Yeah,
I've sat in with Pinky Black and the Excessives at the Green Frog.
Butch.
That was a
Butch.
frightening experience.
Little Bows.
Hidden Valley.
Yep.
Yeah, along Cornhusker Highway, there was, you know, that was a whole circuit for a while, just a lot of little bars on Cornhusker Highway.
What was the place you played, Jim?
Earl's.
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 Earl's Tavern.
Yeah.
El Ranchito.
Yeah.
They had
Starlight.
like bands out there.
Is the
way
tack room still there?
They were put on Sundays.
It is, and they have live music sometimes.
VFW was out on, I mean, actually, there may have been 2 VFW clubs on Cornhusker Highway. The Moose Lodge, all the.
Dutton's Den.
Had that instead?
Yeah,
CG's, Knickerbockers, Jacks Are Better. We used to play there a lot in like the earliest 90s.
St. George and the Dragon. Der Loefenstein.
Oh, yeah, Victor Loefenstein.
What was the one out on Cornhusker, West Cornhusker?
Oh, well, I mean, the Grove.
The
of
Grove,
course,
yeah.
was out
It's
there.
still, yeah,
It's
enjoyed a resurgence now.
The Esquire Club.
Esquire
was out
Club,
there.
yeah.
Was it, we talked about the Elms out on West O would have music.
So where,
Rest in peace.
yeah, right. So where else in Lincoln have you folks performed recently? Any other places besides the zoo?
Well, I think probably for Steve and me, we don't play in bars very much anymore. The zoo's really the only bar that we play in anymore. But there's a lot of other kinds of stuff in Lincoln. You know, there's farmers markets and.
Well, I've seen you at the First Friday Jazz at First Lutheran Church with the Lightning Bug.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you done any like winery stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah, wineries.
Play a lot of wineries.
The Legacies.
Yep.
Oh,
I'm playing at the Kushner Center condominiums next
yeah,
Thursday.
okay.
I mean, that's something we,
The Landing, Savannah Pines.
Yeah.
It's gone from playing bars. You know, I can't stay up that late anymore.
we in the Nebraska Arts Touring Arts Council Touring Arts Program, and so play concerts all over the state, but we always play a local nursing home before we do the main show, just as kind of part of what we like to do.
We played the Preserve in town, which is a, I think, assisted living, and our drummer in the Mescal Brothers was the chef there, so that's kind of how it evolved, and it was really fun. They really enjoyed it, and we did too.
Well, I've played it, it's no longer called Lancaster Manor, but I've played there for decades. It started with Dave Fowler, and then at some point John Walker came in, and this was when it was a county-funded kind of thing. It was for low-income folks and stuff like that, and Walker always said, this is the best audience in the world, because you play, and we play a lot of these places now, but I mean, you kind of go in and they each have kind of their own atmosphere, but sometimes somebody's sitting there and the lights aren't on, and then you play a certain song, and the lights come up maybe just for that, and they're really playing. I mean, I can tell, here's a story if you want a story. I mean, so at Lancaster Manor, there was this couple that always came, and one time she came and he wasn't there, and afterwards she came up and said, you know, he's not doing very well. He couldn't come down, he's sick, but I was wondering if you guys could come up and, you know, play a song for him. And I said, sure. You know, so we went up to the room, and he was in a coma, and, you know, just unconscious. And, but sure, we'll play a song for him. And his favorite song was Wabash Cannonball.
Oh, yeah.
And so he's sitting there, and she's real happy that we're there, and we start playing Wabash Cannonball, and he wakes up. And kind of looked up at us, and we played, and he kind of gave us a little smile and so on, and the song was over. And he went back down, died, I think, 2 days later. Here's a little story for you.
Well, music has powers.
Yeah.
We played a facility in Omaha for like severe brain trauma or injury, and that was also really fun. The Mescal Brothers again. And this one guy, he was young, maybe in his 20s, I guess. He came up to us after the show and he said, I can't believe I finally got to see the Beatles. And he was just on cloud nine. And
Yeah.
I don't think we tried to tell him otherwise. We
No,
just thanked
no,
him for,
no, we just-
thanked him for, you
Just
know.
instantly go into your British accent and say,
Yeah, right.
have you guys played with any, what we might call nationally famous artists, or backed up any folks that would be impressive?
Steve, I mean, the Crusade had kind of a golden era there out at the East Campus Union for a while.
Oh, yeah.
You got to play.
Opening act for numerous, Doc Watson, Bill Monroe, Jimmy Martin, Ralph Stanley. So I got to meet them all. And really, they were all really nice. Jimmy Martin was a little crazy, but they're all very nice. Then I toured for a while with C.W. McCall right after
Convoy.
Convoy,
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
yeah, so it was the summer, the tour was the summer after Convoy. So, and basically it was Chip Davis, his band. What's the name of that band?
Mannheim Steamroller.
Mannheim Steamroller. Basically it was those guys. Ron Cooley, Eric Hansen, and
Was Pennington in that?
no, can't think of the keyboard players.
Jackson Berkey.
Yeah, Jackson Berkey. So that was my brush with fame.
We got to play, I mean, you know, they're not household names necessarily, but there was kind of a stretch with Larry where the Lightning Bugs would get called in to open for, you know, when he was having, you know, I mean, we played Sleep at the Wheel, the Holmes Brothers. I mean, one of my all-time favorite, top 5 favorite shows that I've ever seen, much less got to be a part of, was when he had the Clarence Fountain and the Blind Boys of Alabama.
That was amazing.
They just
That was amazing.
tore the, and we got to open for them, Kinky Friedman, and Larry Showcase, we opened for Norman Blake. So, yeah, those were fun.
You never opened for Jay McShann?
No, I mean, we later played a bunch of things, did a TV thing out at ET Denson with Claude Williams.
Yeah.
I played quite a bit with Claude, I did over the years. Just incredibly talented. Just fun to just stand next to him and hear him play. I mean, he was really impressive. But I never got to see him with Jay McShann.
That was a great band, Jay and Claude. And what was the drummer's name?
The drummer is the oldest one of the 3, too.
Really?
The drummer was the oldest.
Paul Humphrey, I think. I could be
Priscilla
wrong.
Bowman was the vocalist.
Yeah.
Sweet Lady Song. That was great.
Let's see, we've, now you say, would it count to just have opened for someone, or do you mean play
Sure,
with?
whatever.
Well, first, to play with, thanks to Charlie Johnson, to actually back Wanda Jackson. Mescal Brothers played our show and then backed her. Top 5, for sure. And I mean, I had a second guitar tuned differently, just to make sure I could play, I think it was Fujiyama Mama. Just because it was...
Alternate tuning, or was
Well,
it just?
it had to be lower or
tuned-
something. It was
okay.
just, the recording, you could tell by the way the guitar riff was in that song that you couldn't really achieve it on a normal tune. I think it was a drop D is all it was, but,
Yeah.
or it might, I don't remember, but I just decided I'm gonna have it I want it to sound exactly. And she was so sweet, and the crowd at the Zoo Bar was so into it that she turned on. That's what happens, obviously, with performers that get that back from the audience. So it was magical, and she was flirting with me in appropriate ways, and she would bend my whammy bar and look out at the crowd while I'm playing. She'd kiss me on the cheek.
Is that a code
Then my
for
women-
something?
This is a family show.
I've heard my magic twang.
You know what I mean?
Some of the audience may not know what a whammy bar
That's
is.
the bar that changes that lowers the tension on your string so that it goes around. Anyway, that one was pretty special.
She was very complimentary, you guys, after the show.
They asked us to go on the road with them.
Yeah. Well,
But we couldn't because we were already committed to some shows down through the year, but that was pretty special. Just in terms of being parts of shows, opening for other people, I remember being excited to open for Lonnie Mack with that first band, Night Heat, out at Sherry's on 70th and O. It was like a dinner nightclub.
Lonnie Mack played with them?
Yeah, he did. And,
Wow.
and if I just go through time, what were they called? The band that did, that was their big hit. It was in the 90s. Oh, I'm forgetting. Should have written them down. That was at the Bob Devaney. Crash Test Dummies, sorry. We had a big kind of a one hit with this song. Once there was a girl who, he was a real low singer,
Yeah.
which was unique.
Yeah.
We opened for them, and they had that stage spinning way too fast when we first went out there, and man, I just couldn't even look out. We had our own sound and lighting guy, and he was great, but that stage was going way too fast, and when I looked out, it's like when you're at the gas station and the car pulls away and you get disoriented
Yeah.
because you think you're moving. It was like that squared, and I just said, okay, I'm looking at my pedals, and then they figured it out and slowed it down. Then it was fine. We played with Sheryl Crow and the Millions, the rock band that I was in at that time, and toured with her in Europe, which was exciting because I liked them, and I had a friend from Wisconsin that played drums with them, and that was really fun. And
I really liked the Millions, too.
yeah, that
Yeah.
was
I
a
thought they
great
were really a
time.
good local, just a good band, period. Yeah, I liked them.
But those opportunities to open for artists, whether it's Jimmy Vaughn or I mean, when you said Norman Blake, Doc Watson, I
Yeah.
would be so excited in those situations. There's just many opportunities that came along like that with Los Lobos. We played after Los Lobos last year at Zoo Fest, and there's many of those kinds of things. But like, it's exciting, and you feel if you do well as an opening act, a support act, you feel like you're representing, whether it's Lincoln or the art form. We played at the Buddy Holly, the fest at the Surf Room in Iowa. We actually, the Mescal Brothers again got to back 2 Sun artists that were still performing, and they sent us their music. We did our set, and then we backed Charlie Gracie and Norval Felt, and it went great. I mean, what an honor, and it makes you feel proud to represent your neck of the woods and the art form, you know.
Yeah, I mean, we have to mention, of course, we can't not mention Bureau of Holland.
Oh, the
Norwegian Johnny Cash.
Norwegian Johnny Cash, yeah. This was in Sioux Falls, Jim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We backed him up.
What's his name?
Bureau Holland, I believe it
I
was.
think it's BJARRO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like to speak to the audience with my eyes.
He was a nice guy.
Something else. Billy Bob Thornton, we opened for his band at the Bourbon, which is a wonderful venue. The Bourbon Theater. It used to be the State Theater for movies. Anyway, everybody's hounding him. Everybody wants pictures. This is another aspect of playing with people that are famous that I think about. I don't like to bother people. And so after a while, it just happened that he and I were out in the alley, just the 2 of us. And he says to me, tell me about the lakes around here in Nebraska. And I said, well, you know, outside of Lake McConaughey and a few lakes, mostly they're small man-made lakes, because that's just the nature of this part of the country. But I said, I can tell you about the rivers. He was like, okay, and he was excited about that. I told him all about our rivers, you know, that we have so many. There's more miles of riverfront in the state than any other state.
Does he fish? Is
You
that
know,
what-
he didn't say, but he
Just
sure
like
was
water.
interested in the different rivers, and told him about the 5 ecosystems of the Niobrara, and it was fantastic. It was
Yeah.
way better than a picture or a photo. Or
Yeah.
here's, you know,
Absolutely. I just thought of this. I opened for the association in Omaha, at the Omaha Civic. I think that was with the Enterprise. And again, I was very young, 15 or 16. And, you know, it was kind of fun to, I mean, that group was hot at the time.
Yeah.
It was back in 66 or whatever it was. And then I just remember we as soon as that show was over, and why my parents allowed this, I don't even know, but we left Omaha, drove all the way out to Denver all night long, and had some sort of recording session out there. And so within 2 days, that played with the association was out in Denver at some recording studio.
at that age, how
At age,
exciting.
that's
I
amazing.
mean, it was pretty exciting.
Yeah, that was probably a huge crowd, the Civic, right?
Huge. Yeah, it was packed.
10,000. so
Yeah.
it's hell of a-
Yeah.
What were their hits at the time? Was
Oh,
it Cherish yet? or is that-
Cherish was out in Up and Away.
Oh,
Is that My Beautiful
Up
Balloon?
and away.
That's a one.
in my beautiful
Really? Do they? Not a Fifth Dimension, I thought, did that.
Oh, maybe that
Anyway,
was the Fifth Dimension.
Never My Love? Was
Never
that-
mind.
Never
that
My
was
Love.
Jervis, yeah.
Yeah, don't try to fool Ed with,
Yeah.
associations.
Right, but I think you're right. But
Well, the zoo, I mean, over the years, holy cow, you know.
Robert Cray.
Robert Cray, I saw him twice, Mose Allison.
The weird part about it for the zoo for me is when I walked in there, I knew one thing about the blues, and that was B.B. King. I'd never heard of anybody else, and that, you know, I just didn't know. And it was just jaw-dropping to see Albert Collins, you know, or Luther Allison, or James Harmon when his first band came in. And
yeah,
like,
Fats
what in the
and
world
the
are these
Kid.
guys? You know, I
Jeez.
mean, it was just amazing. But I remember all the covers are, you know, $2 and $2.50. You know, Charlie Musselwhite for $3 and stuff like that. So I'm seeing all this great stuff, and all of a sudden there was this giant cover. of these people I've never heard of, and it was either $6 or $8. And I was going, I'm seeing the most amazing things for $2 and $3, but man, $6 or $8, you know, that's a lot of money, you know. I don't know, so I took a chance and got to hear Buddy Guy and Junior Wells
Yeah, oh, what a show that was.
together, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
Never heard of either one of them when I walked in there.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
The zoo was just, it was so eye-opening for me, you know? And I would love B.B. King before that, but that's all I knew about it.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it was a real education in there, you know? It was just, I couldn't believe this was out there. You know, I was such a music fan. You know, I was rock and roll. I was 70s soul was my favorite thing. And I was a kid growing up. All I cared about was classical music. I just loved music from the get-go. I mean, I've always loved music, but I just didn't know that much about the blues until the zoo.
Yeah.
And then I started seeing all these things that I didn't even know they existed. You know?
Yeah.
But Buddy Guy and Junior Wells,
I
they
remember.
played one song and wanted to give them, here's another $8 for you. Play another song.
Didn't pay enough.
I remember that show. I mean, so Buddy opens and does like 45 minutes or so, and then, it's start time. And the band starts in, and Junior Wells is just sitting at the bar, and they're already starting to introduce him, but he just kind of sitting. Not in a hurry. We don't have to get to the stage in a big rush. I mean, just turns it into this total production of finally setting down his drink, getting up, walking, from the bar to the, what is it, 40 feet or something like that to the stage. But it was high drama. It was just incredible. I mean, by the time he was on the stage, it was like, yes, this is going to be incredible.
One of the coolest things I ever saw was James Harm was playing on the stage in this band, and they were wailing away. The place was packed, and Magic Slim walks in. And this is before he lived in Lincoln, and it was passing through. He walked in the bar, and he just walked really slowly. And up there, and everybody's cheering for Magic Slim walking towards the stage. He gets in there, it was a production. It was beautifully done. And he goes up to the stage and he shakes hands with James Harmon. They both have a big smile on his face. And then he turned around and walked just as slowly out. And it was like to tell James, like, well, you can have my club for this night, but this is my place or something. It was really well done. It was.
Yeah, I just keep thinking of Rhea Muldar and
Oh, yeah.
who's Tony Trishka. I mean, kind of a real range of musical
John Lee
stuff.
Hooker.
Yeah, John Lee Hooker used your guitar, didn't
That's
you,
right,
Steve?
that's right. For some reason, his didn't make it here. And I had a 335, Gibson 335. So Larry called me, said, would you mind? I said, that'd be great.
leave some
Yeah.
juju on it. That's right.
Well, I never clean my guitars anyway. So basically, it's still there.
That DNA.
Yeah, it's still there, John Lee Hooker. Yeah, Larry Showcase.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was ill-fated, perhaps, but it had some great acts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, a real eclectic mix. Had good old persons and
Yeah.
Junior Walker and the All-Stars played with him.
yeah.
So the Zoo Bar is still in existence and still doing all this good stuff. So,
Right over there.
yeah, so when a big act like that comes in, let's say some serious names, do you break even? Do you care? Do you?
Yeah, I think you can. If you've got to be careful about the way you structure stuff. But we just had Dave Alvin and Jimmy Dale Gilmore there just a couple of days ago, and I want to put up in a little nicer hotel and everything else like that. Put them in the Graduate, and yeah, it worked out. I mean, we needed to sell it out to break even, but we sold it out, so it was great. Yeah, it was a great show too. That was really, really great.
So was your idea then, I mean, if you break even with the cover charge, the idea is to make a little money on the alcohol?
Yeah, probably lost a little bit at the door, but Monday would have been empty
Yes.
there, and
Yeah.
we sold a lot of drinks, so,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
So it was great. It was great.
And correct me if I'm wrong, or adapt what I'm saying, but it seems like another component from the other side of the coin, if you will, that made the zoo stand out to national acts, is that it was an easy routing spot for a Monday, for a Tuesday, for a Wednesday, maybe a Thursday. If they're playing, if a blues band is playing in Milwaukee on a Sunday and has to get to Denver by Thursday, and so Larry and yourself, realized that and capitalized on that, and then it became a thing where they liked the community and wanted to come back, maybe on a weekend.
Yeah, and also during the disco era in the late 70s, a lot of those guys were struggling.
Yeah.
Even the blues guys in Chicago were struggling. And then it just kind of word got out that, hey, there's this place in Lincoln that's just it's packing them in, and that wasn't really the case in a lot of places. Maybe a lot of people have forgotten. They've forgotten James Brown, kind of. To the Blues Brothers movie, people have their criticisms of it, but it really brought a lot of those guys back another career, and John Lee Hooker was in there, and
Mad Guitar
and-
Murphy played the zoo.
Yeah. He played Monday through Saturday too, for a long time.
Yeah.
Lou Marini and Bones Malone just played the Hastings College Jazz Festival a few weeks ago.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I went to that, just hoping to hear a lot of them, and didn't. But they were featured with every jazz group that exists in Hastings, Nebraska, which
How
was
many is that?
well, more than I expected, actually. I mean, it was an amazing thing for the local music community, especially the public school, the school music programs and all that. And
Yeah.
it was a shot in the arm for them. But and Lou Marini's traveling with James Taylor, and all that.
Sure.
Yeah, so he has to leave some space open for that, the big money gigs. Well, and he was just here at Pinnacle Bank with James Taylor.
I saw that show, it's great.
So Pinewood Bowl has a lot of big shows now, and certainly the Pinnacle Bank Arena. Has that impacted your business one way or another?
It might on a certain night here or there, but I think the overall health of seeing music in Lincoln is if it's good, it's good for us. And so I think we've just become more of a music city, and that's definitely going to help us, not hurt us. There is more competition, but this is one of the things people like to do in Lincoln, is to go see live music, and I think it's great.
I get to play with.
And I love the Pinewood Bowl.
Yeah, I'm playing the Weird Al Yankovic.
Cool.
Are you?
Well, he's hiring a 41-piece symphony orchestra.
Wow. Really?
I thought maybe you had to be weird to get that gig.
Doesn't hurt.
That's up to the contractor. But
I remember, the zoo bar, the weekend of the Farm Aid
Oh, yeah.
thing
That
was,
Yeah, I had to leave Memorial Stadium right when Lou Reed was starting Sweet Jane. I had to leave Memorial Stadium to go to work at the zoo. I was kept looking at my watch, and I can't believe I'm leaving during this.
we were playing the FAC, and Stephen Bruton, who was playing with Chris Christopherson at that point, we're kind of playing, hey, can I sit in with you guys for a couple of songs here? And just, okay, this is going to go real fast. Okay.
That was our only direction.
what song, what key? Real fast.
Some Chuck Berry song, but killer guitar player, and that kind of fun stuff. The guitar player for the Hot Club of San Francisco, sat in with the Bugs for some song. Just stuff like that. It's pretty fun. It's great.
That Farm Aid weekend was so fun. We had Delbert McClinton came and played the zoo bar on the Monday afterwards, and one of the really great shows I've ever seen at the zoo was Tony Joe White played the Thursday night before it all started.
Oh, wow.
That was Rainy Night in Georgia is one of my favorite songs. That was great.
How did I miss that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, he just passed away recently.
Yeah.
That was the Thursday before Farm Aid. That was quite a
stretch of
there.
4 days, yeah.
So the Jazz in June concerts are happening as we tape this, not immediately today, but this month. And the Zoo Bar is sort of the after party, official after party for the Jazz in June crowd. Do you get many people showing up
Yeah,
on
it was,
Tuesdays?
yeah, we've only had one so far, but, yeah, it worked pretty well last year, too. Aaron Strasser's put this great band together, and, it was a lot of fun.
Did any of the cats from the band, the Naughty Professors, come and sit in?
I believe I saw who they was. I had to miss the Jazz in June, I had something else going on, so I just, all I saw is the end, and I'm pretty sure I know that those were
Yeah.
guys who were in there, but I wasn't positive. But last year, they almost came, I think they came every week.
Yeah.
Some of the members of the bands, so.
I mean, I think at this point, among musicians, at least in certain genres, they know about the Zoo Bar. I mean, even if they've never been to Lincoln, I mean, people will come and want to, well, I think after we're done, I'm going to stop by the Zoo Bar.
And then we've had a couple that wanted to play there some other time. I think the Rad Trads played the Jazz in June last year, but we've got them coming in July this year.
Well, and you've expanded your offerings. I mean, they're 20 years ago, whatever, I don't remember a lot of jazz happening at the zoo, but it's almost a regular occurrence.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, don't you have like an early jazz show once a week? Right?
Right.
So that's,
And then, of course, don't forget the country club.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah?
oh, yeah, Thursday night.
I remember when Larry started, it was when I was in the Millions, a rock band, and he was talking to me, he said, I really feel like this scene that's going on at Duffy's, Sundays and Wednesdays, with the alternative or just new rock bands, we should get some of that going at the zoo. So he started bringing some of those bands over to the zoo, which had not really been happening. It was pretty much blues and R&B, and it worked great. And it didn't take away from the R&B and blues theme. It just was certain shows he would bring that in, and he was happy with it. And I know
It was
you
always,
found
it was
Now
always
it's-
though, you think of all the bluegrass he had and country he had.
Sure.
And he did quite a bit of reggae, reggae. I
Sarah
remember,
Manch played there for years.
yeah, and then,
Country swing.
so yeah, he was always in it. He always,
Open to that.
his musical tastes were pretty wide too, But it just kind of got its name through blues,
Yeah.
We had a stretch, it wasn't maybe like 3 years that the Bluegrass Crusade played Christmas night,
Oh, yeah.
which was
Well,
great.
I thought the New High Flyers did that too. We played some New Year's Eves there years ago.
Yeah.
It's kind of a Western swing band for New Year's Eve,
Anybody had a New Year's Eve gig lately? You probably have.
I'm okay. I'm still booking.
Uh-huh.
We do
Yeah,
2
okay.
shows now. We do an early show now, so it really works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
The Gigolos kind of sold it out for years, and we got the Bel Airs this year.
Ah, yeah, the Bel Airs. Talk about a band that's played there for a while.
Yeah,
And talk about a band that's developed a fan base here in town.
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's a very good example. Well, and
Dick's moving to Lincoln.
Really?
Yeah, he's moving here.
Wow.
Jen went out there for a long time. Now they're going to come here,
Well, great.
and I think we're going to get Billy Bacon too. So that's it.
Billy Bacon moving here?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
talks about
heard that,
it.
yeah.
yeah. He's talked about it for a long time, but now he's gotten serious. I think his house is about to sell in Texas, and I think he'll be here this summer. As a matter of fact, I think it's going to be a little longer, right?
Yeah.
6 months down the road or something before
I don't
that.
know.
But they've got a house, and people are working on the house now, so that's going to be fun.
and
And
going
our own
back,
little rock and roll rest home starting.
Sit in the rocking chair.
if you go back to like the 70s when I was just starting to play guitar, I was always interested in music before I played instruments per se, but it was my siblings, especially my oldest sister here in Lincoln, who actually just said, Benji, you gotta check, here's a record by the Bluegrass Crusade. Happy Hanukkah, or just telling me about Sean Benjamin, you know, and letting me, whether, I think she used to like to go see you at Jesse's.
Yeah, we played
The Heart Murmurs were playing a lot at the zoo, but she'd tell me all about this. She was maybe 30, and I was maybe, no, it's before that. She was in her 20s, and I was like 12, 13, 14, whatever. But I had a sense of the scene here and an excitement about it. I couldn't go, but I knew there was some things going on that were really special. It wasn't until I went to Wisconsin that I suddenly became able, you know, to go to shows, because it was like 19 there, I think, and that changed everything, because I saw Paul Black. The bands out there in Madison that I could just go as a 19-year-old and hear music and drink beer.
Yeah, that
but-
was pretty exciting.
But those were special times.
Yeah, they
because she
changed
told me
the
about that.
drinking age here to 19. And all of a sudden, you know, I could go out to the bars and hear music.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I was 20, and it was 21. And then it went down to 19, so just like it wasn't my birthday or anything, just all of a sudden.
So you didn't get a free drink then?
No, I tried, but I didn't. Well, Benji, I didn't sell you a guitar, did I, years ago,
No,
with a super reverb amp?
I don't.
You want it back? or-
Yeah.
Kind of, it was a
What was it?
Telecaster from, would have been 59 or 60 Tele.
No, I would remember
You'd
that.
probably still have it.
Huh?
You'd probably still have it if
I don't
that's
know
what.
about that. Times can get tough. I had a 60 Telecaster that I bought from Groon in
Okay.
'92, and I cherished it, but times got really hard and I sold it, and I miss it. But I would remember that. I've
Okay.
only had 1, 2, 3, 4 Telecasters,
Okay.
but I wish you would have sold it to me.
Well, you know, I'm trying to remember who I sold it to.
We
but
came
it
to
was some young
your
person.
place and played when you got that little Martin ukulele, right?
I was thinking about that while we sat here. It kind of speaks to the community of musicians, but that was just a case where I saw an ad in the paper that said bass fiddle, because you used to be able to look in the paper for ads about music for gear for sale, equipment for sale. It said bass fiddle, some price, trap set or kit, some price, and I mean, I just beat it in on that and said, well, those are terms that people would use from the past. Those could, you know, so I went over there, and there was a beautiful couple in their 90s that just, yeah, ukuleles, you know, old drums, a bass that was owned by, I think it was owned by August Dietz, that my friend and cohort bought from them. And anyway, I didn't know much about anything except I bought my dad a ukulele for his birthday one year, but I liked them. I liked playing them,
Yeah.
but they had like the holy grail of ukuleles that I didn't even know when I bought it. I'm like, yeah, you can buy it, sure. Well, then when I learned that, I decided, and saw that kind of the condition that they were living, and they didn't have an air conditioner in their bedroom, for instance. So I just decided that I would take some of the money from that ukulele. I wish I would have just kept the uke, but it was fun to take some of the money, and I decided, Rose and Bud Chapman were their names. They worked for the Department of Roads. They lived right over by the Department of Roads, and I decided to throw a party for them and get them an air conditioner. But she had shown me all of their set lists of songs from the 30s. She had a Hawaiian band that was kind of a hot thing then. So I knew the kind of music they liked, and I thought of you guys, of course.
Yeah,
The
it was
Lightning
pretty,
Bugs.
it was pretty fun.
Yeah, and invited the music community to celebrate their lives.
You know, I ended up with a bunch of homemade 78s from that couple.
Really?
Yeah, so I still have them.
Wow.
So I'll have to, do you have anything you can play 78s?
I do. We have the
to?
Victrola at my mom's.
I'll have to get you a few of those.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That'd be really special.
Rose and Bud,
Rose and Bud Chapman.
yeah.
Well, I have an actual record player that's got a 78
There
speed
you
on it.
go.
I mean, you can like plug it in and stuff, so if you. Yeah.
You don't have to crank it.
Well, Loretta bought it, and, because you can digitize things
Yeah, I've
directly
got
with something or
those.
another, and it's still an annoying process, so I never did it, but I've got some old 78s that
There you
I
Yep.
can still play.
Yeah, I've got a lot of them, quite a collection, old 78s.
You want to buy a record player?
Actually, I have one of those too, a turntable that you can digitize.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's a pain
It is.
to do. It's, you know,
Whatever.
yeah.
The first local act I saw was at a Southeast High Christmas ball at the country club. I was invited. You had to be invited by someone that could invite. So this really sweet girl invited me, and we had a blast. But it was Charlie Burton and the Cutouts at that time. It was, I think I'm right, I'm not sure, but it was 1980. And I mean, I couldn't even believe them. I'd heard about him from my sister, but I'd never seen him. They were playing, he's on the floor out front, under tables, and my date just wanted to hang out in the lobby. I was 16, and she wanted to hang out and socialize in the lobby, and I did that for a little bit, and then I just really nicely asked her if she'd mind. I know, we're on a date, but would you mind if I just really want to go in there and listen? And we weren't like boyfriend and girl. She's like, no, that's fine, thanks for asking. And then I just went right in and just had my mind blown. That, I mean, those things are crucial for young people, and if we get a chance, I'd love to talk about the future of music and young people that aren't of age.
Go.
Well, just that I think it's really important. I would have loved to have heard more music in those formative years live in front of me. You know, there's an aura to it. I think that that aura is at risk of getting lost. I mean, there's always a flux in the music business. You know, it might seem harder or more diffuse today in some ways, but then again, when there were fewer delivery formats in, say, 1958, and there was payola. I mean, there's always going to be things that are hard about the music industry, but I think that so many people are mobile and private, and they'll have their earbuds or their headphones, or they could stay home, like movies, and watch Netflix. They can stay home and watch, you know, a concert that happened a month ago in some very amazing setting at home, and not even go to a club to hear live music. This is a change that is challenging. And I still think there's an aura, though, to a live performance right in front of you that is very, very special. And like my daughter, for instance, she's 22, and she's engineering live and recorded music, and she plays in a number of bands and tours some of the time. But she arranges shows. She puts together shows. They call them DIYs, and they're house shows, which can be for all ages. It's not in a bar, and it's smaller, but you know, there still might be 30, 50 people there. And there's touring acts that I've seen that prefer that kind of a setting. So recently I saw a presentation by a friend on the punk scene here. Paul Tisdale did a really cool presentation about the 80s and the punk rock scene in Lincoln, Nebraska. And it was great to listen to. And one of the things he said is he wasn't sure that this kind of thing, like what happened in that scene, say the brickyards outside of town, the brickyard where kids could gather and put on shows and listen to shows, play shows, didn't think that was happening as much. I think it is. I think it is. It's just like what my daughter Marina is doing, these types of shows. So I don't know. I snuck into the zoo and met Sean Benjamin. I met you through guitar instruction. These were crucial meetings, you know, just to talk with you or listen to your records, of course, but I didn't get to actually feel that experience until I was at Wisconsin because I just couldn't get in.
Yeah, you know, it may just be a factor of age, but it seems like when I started playing, there were many more opportunities for just jam sessions, where there was no money or anything. It was in someone's basement. And I wonder if that's Feds. I really have no idea, but I wonder if that's still happening.
I bet it is. I think I hear about it sometimes,
Yeah.
or if a band just go to rehearsal, then some other people just go hang out and rehearse, and it turns into a jam session and stuff like that. I mean,
Well, I mean, that, to me, that's one of the best ways to learn, because you don't, there's not necessarily an audience, it's just your other players, and you have this opportunity to stretch out or make mistakes or, try things out. And I would hope that that's still occurring. I don't know, I'm not, as far as I know, it's not, but I'm old.
They don't invite you.
It's kind of a both and kind of thing, in the sense that, I mean, in some ways, I mean, all the instructional things that are available and the opportunity to, I mean, hear world-class players, this is kind of how I do this.
Yeah.
I mean, that I think, I mean, and so you have all these young players, I mean, I'm kind of like in bluegrass, for example, that are just killers. And because they've got instruction off YouTube and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, that kind of face-to-face kind of connection, I mean, one of the questions we were ever going to talk about was, who influenced you and stuff like that. And one of the things I was going to say is just the people that I played with, the people that influenced me.
Yes.
And it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure Bob Dylan, boy, I wish I could write a song like that, but, ain't going to happen. But what kind of song should we play? I'd like to do this one. I mean, that's kind of gets you thinking about stuff. And I played for a while in this band of, I say old guys because they were probably the age that I am now. But it was the Roy Williams band. There was all these really good hardcore country players, and we played Earls and all the Cornhusker Highway stuff. And Roy could sing at least a verse and a chorus of 400 songs.
Good.
And anybody requested, he wanted to try to play requests for people. That was his thing. And he said, if we can do a verse and a chorus, then we can do the song. And so for me, it was just a great education of, we're going to do it in G, well, let's do a price turnaround, and just, this is how this, it's going to happen. And kind of learning about that from being in the moment with people, not a device, but, on a stage at Earl's. I mean, that was just really valuable, in terms of, for me, how to be a player.
Absolutely. I was thinking the same thing when I saw a few of the questions that might come up that Dean sent us. And by the way, thanks, Dean, for including me, Dean Haist. So, but when I thought...
We'll edit that out. That's
Okay.
all right. Or not.
I thought that the same thing. I thought, well, probably the biggest influences were the people that I played with through the years. When I came back to Lincoln, I was fortunate enough to play with players that had played longer than I and were in some ways, many ways, better than I was at that time. It's just like tennis. If you're playing with someone better than you, you're going to get better. So, like, Dave Mazur was very good at conveying Albert Collins, Albert King. He sang great. He knew how to front a band and make things a show, and that was really important. Fred Reddick, Gary Williams, Dave Wagner, all these guys that had been playing, and they'd tell me about the scene before I even was living here again and playing. And so that was invaluable. And then like getting asked to join the Millions for a song, and then it evolves into just being a band member. They wanted a lead guitar on a certain song, and they thought of me. And so that went well, and then try this. Hey, can you play pizzicato on this song? Because we're having a little trouble with it. And the next thing you know, I was just playing with them. That was a band that influenced, my sense of music a lot, because it was different than what I'd been playing. It was rock music. It was pop. I don't know how we could talk about the term pop forever. I mean, my parents' big band music was pop for them back then. So the term just, I don't it's an interesting, elusive term. I guess it just means maybe a lot of people listening. But the Millions were a pop rock band in a sense because the audience was bigger and the exposure was exciting, you know. And from that point forward, things were different for me. I could play
Wasn't
the
that
Super
almost
on a
all this
Saturday.
original material?
It was.
Yeah.
We hardly did any
Yeah, which
covers.
is different than like a garage band or something, you know, where you play
Yeah.
a lot of covers, so.
Although the covers were incredibly useful to learn how to emote and play
Oh,
guitar.
true.
But yeah, it was
True.
original. And then the Self-Righteous Brothers after that really came out of that experience. Now I'm in the rock scene in the 90s, you know, and it was really fun. Again, big audiences, weekend nights, in the, you know, and touring. And then the Mescal Brothers. You're talking about influences. I mean, I didn't know how to play rockabilly, really. I played a little with Tom Harville in the beginning because I always loved it. Jerry Lee Lewis used to make me fall on the ground into a state of ecstasy when I was a kid. And so, well, yeah, but I told them when they needed a guitar player, let me know if I'm doing it right, and if it's not working,
Yeah.
get someone better, and we're still friends. I don't want it to, we were all friends, so it worked. So, and Charlie Johnson, and Gerardo, and Deuce, all these guys, and Sean, especially Charlie, was like, he loved my chops, but he's like, just play downstrokes here. See, it just digs in and it sounds kind of primitive, and that's what you want to do. He did that time and again, and I just soaked it up.
Yeah,
He taught
absolutely.
me to play that way.
Yeah.
So that was a huge influence.
And I think that, I mean, you're made better if you're around somebody who's better, and that can be in a lot of different areas and fields. But I think maybe in music, more than any other realm, that notion of just, you have an opportunity to be playing with somebody who's better than you.
Well, you're learning a language and you've got to
But
get
just
with
right,
somebody
just
that's got
right
a
in the
vocabulary.
moment, though,
Yeah.
it just takes you.
Yeah.
I've never quite played like this before.
Yeah.
I think it does elevate you.
Yeah.
And Josh, with his writing, I can't tell you how many times Josh Hoyer he makes these wonderful demos on his own little Zoom machine that some would think is primitive, but he uses it very well. And there I hear I know which tone he uses for the guitar kind of, we joke about it, but it's a cheesy kind of sounding guitar part, but I know that's the guitar. And I can't tell you how many times I listen to that and just go, oh boy, how am I going to do this on guitar? Like anxious, actually, just like, this is hard. He's figured it out on keys, but he has a sense of guitar. He has a great sense of writing, obviously. And then sure enough, you just have to figure it out and learn it, and it becomes natural when you were originally thinking, I don't know how I'm going to even do that.
And so
that's
he
great.
has a real specific, on all his songs, a pretty specific idea of what the guitar is supposed to play.
I would say on many songs he has some specific ideas, and they're almost always dead on.
Huh.
But
Does
then
he
other
give you
times,
space though? sometimes?
yeah, oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
I
what I
often
thought.
get to, what if we make a bridge, change it to this kind of a thing on the bridge? He's very open-minded,
Yeah.
just to get started. Here's a song.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the parts that he comes up with, they stick.
Yeah.
But he is open to letting me.
Here's the non-musician, just going to ask you guys a question, I think. When you just tell that story, how important is it to keep growing musically? I mean, that's
Essential.
It's to have those kind of challenges, it would seem to me, is really important, and to keep going and keep it interesting, and,
Challenges, yes.
Do you think that's true?
Good.
Oh, yeah.
Musical challenges are good.
And I mean, I think there are players that have played forever that are still growing, and there's some players that play forever that don't grow, that are not interested in doing anything different. And not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, they might have it exactly the way they want to have it or anything like that. But I would think that would be important.
Everybody's different.
And with Josh's writing, and you're gonna keep coming up with more original songs, he's gonna challenge you and challenge you and challenge you, because he's a pretty prolific writer.
Mm-hmm. But I think that and I'm just speaking for myself, because there are plenty of musicians who want to do things just the way it always was and enjoy that. But I mean, in the Mescal Brothers, when I start to play a song for the 60th time since I've been in the band, or more, certainly more, but you start to play it a little differently, and there's a whole different energy. Now, granted, the guitar is a featured instrument that plays leads. I think it's hailing out. But you just play it. You play it maybe your solo in a different way. And even though that, a lot of times I like to play it just like it kind of was because it was a really good solo. And that's fun too. But when you start to veer off and find new territory, it changes the whole energy. And I do
Absolutely.
think challenging yourself is, for me, it's still essential.
I think there's a growth I bet, but probably for me, being the slacker that I am, the most important thing is the fun factor.
Yes.
I mean, it's just, even just learning a new song, and you kind of work on it, and, well, why don't you do this? You sing the higher part, and, and then you kind of get done, and, hey, that sounds kind of good. Yeah. And it's just fun. I mean, it's maybe not reinventing the wheel. I mean, it's sort of, we're still just singing harmonies like we always do, except that we've never done it on this song before. And boy, I like how that sounds. That was great. It's a hoot.
Yeah, yeah. But it's nice to get paid, too.
Well,
In soloing, I mean, I think there's some songs where I think you need to play a solo that's similar to what people have heard, perhaps, if it's a cover.
Yes.
But that's not nearly as much fun as having no preconceived notion whatsoever
Yeah.
about what you're going to play. You have your set of chord changes and, sort of a theme, a song, that's just, sometimes it just sounds terrible. I'm speaking about myself.
Well, I've heard you play.
But then sometimes it sounds pretty good, and if, you keep experimenting like that, occasionally you'll get a solo, and you've probably done this too, what you're improvising, but it sounds pretty good. You like it solo, so you'll try and remember it and play it similar next time. So that sort of evolves into a written piece.
If it works, don't fix it kind of thing.
Kind of thing, yeah. But I
definitely.
think for me, it's just fun to.
we just played a gig, and actually Steve was sitting in with this band that I play in that I guess you've never exactly played in before.
No.
And he just brought the banjo, and the last song of the night, and Steve and I have been playing together, I think, since 1980. And I told him, I think that's the longest solo you've ever taken.
That's great.
He just,
Well, it was open-ended. Frankly, I didn't know how to stop.
and so, and I kind of, so and we're done with the gig and stuff, and I kind of tell Steve, I think that's the longest, and he goes, well, maybe, there was maybe one, that, kind of trying to remember. And then I realized that I sent him an email later, said, well, I said it was the longest, but also it was really, really good. I forgot to mention that.
Oh, gosh, self-indulgent.
Well, thank you so much for contributing to this experience. And
Thank you, Ed.
yeah,
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
you're welcome. Let's go home and practice.
Okay, yeah.